Hey guys, Alex from Board Game Co. over here, and today we're doing a new series of videos, a series of games I've gotten back and why. These are games that I I played them at one point, and maybe I didn't play them. I'll get into the different categories shortly, but they're basically games that I decided to re-add to my collection. Not games I'm getting in for the first time, but games that were in my shelf, I traded them away, and I'm getting them back. Now, if you follow this channel, if you watch the other videos, you know I'm a huge proponent of keeping an incredibly lean collection. There's only so much time in the day, there's only so much room we have, there's only so much money we have, there's all these limited resources, which for all of us measure differently, whether it's time, money, space, knowing all these rules, whatever the reasons are, there is a limit to how many games you can actually reasonably play. And therefore, I'm a huge proponent of keeping a lean collection. I have a video about that, I'll link to it up here. And I have all these other videos about trading away games and getting rid of games and all the games I'm not keeping and why, and they're usually great games. But I do all that because there is only so much of a resource, whatever that resource is for you, that we have. In my case, I would argue it's mostly time and knowing rules, but everyone is going to have different priorities, or maybe all of them. Now, that being said, I recently, over the past few weeks, have actually gotten I would say an above average amount of games back, and I'll get into why in different videos. But that led me to think through all the games I've gotten back over the years, and the various reasons I've gotten them back. Now, over the course of this series, it's going to be roughly 5 videos as of now, because each one's a different category of reasons. Over the course of this series, there's going to be roughly 50-60 games I've gotten back that I've reacquired. Don't in any way let that dissuade you from keeping a lean collection. I don't have an exact number, but I do have some degree of categorization, and over the 6-7 years I've been into gaming, 9 years by now, over the 9 years I've been into gaming, I have traded away over 1,200 games. So the fact that 60 of them I got back should not in any way be a reason why you shouldn't keep a lean collection. Don't let that small percentage, that tiny amount, that 1/50th of the games you're getting away, be incentive to keep an extra 1,200 games on my shelf. My basement, which is where I keep my games, is basically full as it is with 250 games. I don't have room for those other 1,200 games. I'm not going to keep them just on that, but what if I want it back one day, and what if it's super expensive? And in fact, one of the games we're doing today is an expensive game that went out of print, and at the time it wasn't. So yes, I had to pay a premium to get it back. But 1,200 games is worth a lot of money. That will pay for the premium time over and time over. You don't keep everything you want just for the fear of regret of what if I change my mind one day. Get it back. You can always get a game back. Sometimes you have to pay a premium, and the premium will vary, but it's very unusual that you can't get a game back. And like I said, the amount you're getting rid of will pay for that time over. That big disclaimer aside, and I won't do that in every single video, I'll link to this in the other videos, but starting off, the first video I have is, this one's kind of the more typical reason. It's less of I have different categories of reasons of why I'm getting them back, and why I got different games back, but this one's more just a general, I played it again, and I realized I wanted it back. That's all of these games over here are games that I've played again and realized I wanted them back after playing again. But more specifically, because there is a different category of video I'll be doing called basically second thoughts or regrets, where I played a game once or twice, got rid of it, and then because of all the hype, the buzz, I tried it again. But that's not this category. This is a category of games that I played multiple times, I enjoyed them, I really liked them. Over time, they shifted away from my collection, and just at certain points, I played them again, I had an opportunity to re-experience them, and that made me think, you know what, that really was a good game. Now, starting off on the list, and a few of these, by the way, are specifically happened because of COVID-19, because of quarantine, and I'll get into why. But starting off that list with number 1, at 4 minutes into the video, number 1, we have Targi. Targi is a game that I played it a good 5-10 times, somewhere in that range, not a ton, but a decent amount. Really enjoyed playing it, really liked it, and then at a certain point, I was kind of done with it. I was like, it's the same sequencing, it's all the same stuff, it's, you've played it out, there's only so many different variations of the game you can do, and I just got rid of it. It wasn't a bad game, it just fell into that usual category of games I get rid of. It was no longer special enough, in my opinion, to keep playing it. But because of COVID-19, I've been playing a lot of games online, and because the online games don't always match up to my collection, they don't always sync with the games I have behind me on my shelves, I've been trying games that I either haven't played before, or trying games that I haven't played in a while, and Targi is one of them. I've played Targi like another 4 or 5 times online since COVID-19, and I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. And I found myself regretting ever getting rid of it. And so I decided to get Targi back. Targi is basically, I should cover the game itself. Targi is basically a 2-player worker placement game. It's a fascinating game where you basically are putting down workers on these edge cards and these border cards, and then you take what the border cards give you, but you also take the intersection of your workers. It's a fascinating game of blocking each other, going for what you want, while factoring the blocking aspect, while factoring that they're going to try to block you, so you need to hedge your bets with not necessarily the thing that's best for you, but the thing that gives you 2 chances rather than being blocked. Is this little interesting play-by-play of trying to think through how you're going to block your opponent and how your opponent's going to block you, while then trying to maximize your victory points through different forms of set collection, of trading in, goods for cards. It's a very interesting and very unique 2-player worker placement game. Great game. Got it back because of COVID-19. Then next up, we have Through the Ages. Through the Ages is an incredible game that this is actually my top 20 of all time, which is interesting for a game that I got rid of and got back. But Through the Ages was never a game that I didn't like. Rather, it was a game that over time I realized it was not seeing play just because of how long it is. This game, even with 2 players, can stretch out to 3 hours. With 3 players, can easily be 4, sometimes more. And with 4 players, well, the last time I played it with 4 players, we started at like 10 o'clock p.m. and basically played till 4 o'clock in the morning, calling the city to make sure they don't tow our parked cars. So this is a long game. This is from Vlada. It's a civ building game, but not a typical, dudes on a map civ building game. It's more about the cards you acquire and getting these different cards that all these, like, you have leaders, you have technology, you have increased military force, increased buildings, all these different things that will help you grow your civilization. It is it is my favorite civilization building game that I got rid of because of how long it takes to play. But I eventually got the app, and I'm usually not into app games unless I don't have the game, but I got the app on my phone, I started playing, and I remembered how much I enjoyed it, and I got it back knowing full well this is the kind of game that might see play once every 2 years. But it's good enough. It's good enough to be worth keeping on my shelf and play it once every 2 years, and then once in a while, and this is a big factor, once in a while I'll make sure to pull out the app because that will help me remember the rules. The part of the problem wasn't once every 2 years. The problem was once every 2 years combined with having to relearn the rules and re-involve myself in what is a fairly complicated game. But kind of mixing and matching, having the app so I can play it here and there, and then having the game. Through the Ages is a great game that I decided was worth having no matter how rarely you play it. Trois, or Troyes, Trois. It looks like Troyes. I always say Trois because I think that's the correct pronunciation, but then people don't know what I'm talking about, so I always say both Troyes and Trois. But Troyes and Trois is a dice placement game that I got it a long time ago. This one I actually got back years ago. So I've gotten these back at different points. Targi I got back a few weeks ago. Through the Ages I got back 7-8 months ago. Trois I got back a few years ago. But it was in my collection for a few years. I played it a bunch of times, really enjoyed it. At a certain point, I kind of had a string of 2 or 3 bad plays of it. And I generally value my game time so much that a game that gives me bad plays, even if it's a great game, I tend to be critical of and want to get rid of it. And that's what happened with Trois for me. I played it, 10 plus times, and I had 2 or 3 bad plays in a row. And I don't remember what it was. I don't remember what it was that defined it as a bad play. I don't remember what the decision process was or wasn't, but eventually I got rid of it. And then I regretted getting rid of it, and I got it back. Maybe it was a 2-year gap, something like that, but I remembered how enjoyable it was and how tense that dice placement was, and the dice buying and the blocking of the opponents. Ultimately, there's a whole lot of dice going on, but one of the fun things I love about this game is how many dice you have, your opponents can buy them from you. So you can never really get that inherently competitive advantage of having too many workers. Rather, the more workers you have, the more options everyone has. They just have to pay a slight premium for it. And what you do with those workers is incredibly tense. Every single thing you do you knock someone out of a building? Do you want to get a spot on one of the building cards that will give you a unique ability to switch things for other things, which will give you points in different ways? Do you want to build a cathedral? Every single thing you can do with these cards is going to result in a very, very tough decision to make, and it is so amazingly rewarding to sit there and eke out all these pathways of how you can turn this into that, like a typical Euro game, and I've played it another 10 times since I've gotten it back, and I have no regrets. It's incredible experience, which I'm using the word incredibly a lot in this video. That's the word of the day. I'm going to start using word of the days. That gives me an excuse to say the same word again and again. Bruges by Stefan Veld. Bruges is a game that I played maybe 5-6 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but I played it 4 or 5 times. I enjoyed it. I liked it, but at the end of the day I got rid of it because I didn't feel that it held up to the Fell games that I loved the most. I enjoyed it, but I thought aspects of it were fiddly. But this is another game that I decided to play during quarantine on Yukata, and I've been playing with my friends in Yukata, and I have been loving it. It is incredible. You see, I'm using it intentionally this time. It is an incredible game by Stefan Feld, in which the thing that I like most about this game is the cards. Every single turn, your strategy has to pivot and adjust as you draw new cards. The cards are completely game-changing in the unique competitive advantage they give you, how you utilize them. Every card can be used in 6 different ways: to get money, to get workers, as the card itself, as a house for your other people, to build a canal, and to get rid of disasters. There are 6 different things you can do with a card, and that makes every decision very tough. But more importantly, every round is a round of drawing cards into your hand and then hoping you can figure out the best way to mesh with your previous strategy that you've been building till now, accommodating for the new strategy and whatever else happened with the dice and the disasters this round. I have really been enjoying this ever since playing Yukata. I've played it, I think, 7 times in the past 2 weeks. My friends have been playing it without me, which is rare. My game group, my friends don't play games without me. Don't ask me why. They could, they know how to, but I'm the one who has all the games. I'm the one who does all the rules, and my friends have been playing this game multiple times online without me because it's that much fun. I have not actually played the physical copy, but since I've gotten it back, but it is... I got this one back, like I said, because I played it again. I remembered how good it was. Le Havre by Uwe Rosenberg is up next. This is another one that I have not actually played it since I got it back, but this is one of my first games when I got into gaming. I never really liked Agricola that much. I thought it was fun, I thought it was fine, but I didn't love Agricola, not in the slightest. But Uwe Rosenberg did have a lot of games I did love. I loved At the Gates of Liang, I loved Le Havre, I loved Glass Road, I loved Or at Labora. He had a lot of games that I liked. Just Agricola, I liked, and the other ones I loved. But over time I found that I started getting rid of them because many of his games have this kind of pathway that once you kind of figure out which of 2 or 3 ideal pathways is the way to go, you can kind of just figure out the engine. There's an aspect of repetitiveness of, I've done this before, I know what I'm doing now, I know how to turn this good into that good in a way that's more efficient, and there's always decisions to be made. There's always hard decisions, you're always fighting with other people that will go to minimize it, but there's enough of a solowness to the pathways you're building that over time I started one at a time getting rid of them. But Le Havre is one that I had to get back. It is one of my favorite, I would argue it's my favorite from his games. It is a bit of a beast to get to the table. It's a long playtime. This is another one that I got back knowing full well that it will not see play that often because of how long it is and because of that pathway thing. And also because I don't want to play it that often because I don't want those mental pathways firmly built into my mind. I want it to be a fun exploration every single time. I want to be reminded of, oh, I want to try this. You know, this is an interesting way to go. I wonder how this will play out. I like that aspect to these games. I like being able to experiment. And this is one that I don't expect to be playing a lot, but again, like Through the Ages, it was so good at what it did that I had to get it back. I just had to. Anyways, up next, I mentioned Uwe Rosenberg. Next up, we have Glass Road. Glass Road is another one that I got back. This one for a very different reason. While I think Le Havre is far better, I think Le Havre is a much more amazing, incredible. It's an incredible game. Glass Road is not as good, but one of the things I always loved about Glass Road was actually the last Uwe game to leave my collection before I started slowly getting some of them back. But Glass Road stayed for so long and came back for the same reason, which is it is the shortest Uwe game that you can play, meaning well, not shortest, but from these heavier Euro games, it's I think one of the shorter ones. And then secondly, it has an aspect to the gameplay where you play different cards, and depending what other people played will very much depend on the actions you can take. And one of the things I love about that, one of the things that makes it really enjoyable, and again, why it stayed for so long and why I came back, is one of the things I dislike about these Euros in general to a certain degree, but Uwe games specifically, is the level of analysis paralysis that can come up as you try to do all these different things. And you're like, well, if I turn this into this, and I do this, and I do that, and you map out a perfect pathway, but meanwhile, everyone's just waiting for you to figure out your perfect optimal move. In Glass Road, because of the way the cards are played, you don't always have that option. You don't always. You rarely can map out the perfect move. You have to walk into every single turn knowing that you cannot perfectly plan your move because you don't know what will happen. It combines that build resources and turn this into that many Uwe games have, but it takes a different aspect of card play that forces you to never know what you will actually do, and that stops you from being able to plan out your perfect turn. Now, there will be some people who end up taking longer as they try to map out 14 different options of the perfect turn, but fortunately for myself and the people I play this with, primarily, we kind of give up that perfection aspect and understand that you have to plan for the best, expect a certain amount of unknown, expect a certain amount of whatever, and walk into it. I really enjoy Glass Road. Next up, we have Tobago, and this is another COVID-19. 3 of these games on this list were because I've been playing them online, and that reminded me how much I enjoy them. But Tobago is another game that I had for years. It was amongst my first something, I don't know, it wasn't my first game, so it was in the first, year or two of gaming. I played this a lot with my wife, 2-player, really enjoyed it. At a certain point, I started playing it 3-player, once I started having a game group again. I played a few 3-player games of it, but then eventually I got rid of it, thinking that it was good, but I wasn't pulling it out enough, and I wasn't, by the way. It got to a certain point where this fell into the category of games that I liked, I really enjoyed, but I wasn't playing them, and so I had to question whether they were going to hit the table. And no matter how much you like a game, you have to like it enough to play it, assuming you're keeping games to play them. If you're keeping games to collect them, it's a whole different ballpark. I keep games to play them, and so I have to question, if a game is not hitting the table, why do I still have it? And this might not hit the table, to be frank. I am fully aware when I got this back, it may not hit the table. But I've been playing it online, and I've been enjoying it again, and reminding myself why. I don't think it's the best game, by the way. I really don't. Compared to Targi and Bruges, which I think are far better games, I think Tobago is a solid experience, but there are many things I'm critical of. It does feel a little bit kind of like just playing through it. There are many aspects of the game I can criticize, but I still enjoy it. I still think it's a lot of fun. I am optimistic that I will end up pulling this out and playing it, even with the physical copy. Time will tell, and if not, you'll eventually see it on one of my games leaving the collection video, but that's Tobago. And finally, last up on this list, oh wait, no, not last up, there's one more before we get to the last one, which is Dominion. By the way, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 9 games on this list. This is not a top 10 list. This was me going through all the games on my shelves and crawling the first 500 games on Board Game Geek to try to remember what I've done with different games over the years. So this is not a top 10 list at all, that's why there's only 9. But anyways, next up we have Dominion, which is a giant box full of expansions, so I'm not going to pick it up because it's ridiculously heavy. But anyways, Dominion is a game that I eventually got rid of over time because I was playing so many deck builders, and I just felt Dominion was great. It was a good starting point for deck builders, but it wasn't holding up compared to all these other new ones I was playing. I was playing Puzzle Strike, I was playing Core Worlds, I was playing Star Realms. Probably others, I can't remember them, but I can tell you this much. Puzzle Strike, Core Worlds, and Star Realms are all gone. Dominion is back. Dominion, at a certain point, I realized that I loved the simplicity of Dominion. It wasn't as cool as any of the new big boys on the block. It didn't do things in more new, interesting, innovative ways. But what it did, it did cleanly, and it did it well. At a certain point, maybe a 3-year gap of not having it, might have been 2 years, I eventually got it back and just continued playing it. It is a huge collection full of Dominion cards, obviously, but it's a game that I find myself pulling it out to play with my wife. I find myself pulling it out to play with my gamer friends. I find it pulling myself out to play with my, kind of into games, but not really gateway gamer friends. It is an incredibly accessible game. It is not the coolest deck builder out there, not by a long shot. But like I said, it does deck building incredibly well, and I think it does deck building the best. There are a few other deck builders I still have. I have Quest for El Dorado. I have a few bag builders, but Dominion is a clean and simple experience. I have Mage Knight. I have a few Echoes of Snow, but again, Dominion is a clean, well done experience. And finally, number 9 on this list is Ethnos. Ethnos is a game that I played 4 or 5 times before getting rid of it, and I got rid of it because every time I played it, it was enjoyable. I did like it. It is a game, it's an area control game where every game you take 6 of 12 races in the game. I think there's a promo race fairies as well, so you can have more. But you take 6 of the races, you combine them, you mesh them up, and then you start trying to play cards to basically control areas on the board. It's simultaneously incredibly dull and incredibly well done. And what I mean by dull is so many of these races, the powers aren't really all that interesting in theory. But the way the gameplay forces you into putting it on the board, it was very interesting, it was very well done. I enjoyed my first 4 or 5 plays of it. And then I got rid of it because I thought I'd played it out. I thought I'd seen what the game had to offer, and I just was no longer interested. And then, a few months later, this is very possibly the shortest gap on my whole list from games I got rid of and got back. This one, I played it again, someone else's copy, a few months later, and I was able to teach it in 2 minutes. I hadn't played the game in 4 or 5 months, and literally, not 2 minutes, but I literally taught the game to a bunch of new players in like 4.5 minutes, and then we played a game in 45 minutes. it still, to me, is not the best game. It is still a game that I think is nowhere near many of the games I keep, and you will not see this in any of my top 20 lists, top 30, top 40. But it is so accessible to teach it, it is so quick to play, and it gives you a very rewarding punch for that level of teaching and good return on your time and on your level of attention and level of rules. That's it. Those are the top 9 games, not top 9. Those are the 9 games that fall into the category of games that I've gotten back that I really enjoyed. I played them a bunch, got rid of them, and then a certain amount of time later, I got them back. There's gonna be at least 4 other videos in this series, possibly more. Every single one has a different reason, a different aspect to it of what happened, why I got it back, and many of the ones I got back didn't necessarily stay either. This is video number 1 in this series. Again, as they happen, I'll update, and maybe over time, as games continue to filter in, maybe I'll do more videos that are the same reason, but we'll see. We'll play it out. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and like down below. Subscribe if you haven't. Go ahead and hit that subscribe. We recently hit 2,000 subscribers. I'd love you to be part of number 3,000 and 15 and 20 and 100, all that stuff. But until next time, I'm Alex from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below, what game have you gotten back that you regretted? You played it, you enjoyed it, you got rid of it, then you got it back, and you're still enjoying it to this day. What is your favorite game from one of those? Until next time, have a good one.